Monday, December 5th, 2022 at 6 p.m. We are meeting in the Harvey Hearing Room of the Town Hall, and this meeting is being televised live. Could you please call the roll call?
Yes, Ms. Leonard?
Present.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yep.
Ms. Petrie? Yes. Ms. Swope?
Here.
Ms. Barry?
Here.
Ms. Powell?
Here. Could you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ms. Leonard, can you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like everybody to remain standing for a moment of silence. We have lost two long-term members of our staff recently. Ms. Howard?
Yes. So the first individual is Miss Rose Brown. She was hired in 1963 as a part-time clerk in the superintendent's office. She went full-time in 1973 as a senior clerk and typist, and in 1986 was appointed the secretary to the superintendent of schools. She retired from the Winthrop Public Schools in 1988. Ms. Brown was 103 years old, and she is the mother of two former employees, Andy Winkoff and Eileen Winthrop. So if we can take a moment for that.
Thank you.
And Miss Sandra Checkaway, fondly known as Sandy, she was hired in 1976 as an ESP and went on to become a long-term substitute at the Willis School and earned her degree and then became an English and French teacher at the Winthrop Middle School. She worked for us for over 30 years and retired from the Winthrop Public Schools in June of 2003. Sandy was the mom of Michael and Robert Checkaway, both who were former students here in the Winthrop Public Schools.
Thank you. Seeing that we have no public comment tonight, I will open to our delegates and visitors.
So Mr. Curley looks a little bit different tonight. So Mr. Curley and Principal Andrea O'Leary are swapping their dates to present to you due to a conflict. So
Great, thank you so much if you want to.
That'd be great.
So I prepared a quick slideshow for you, not a lot of information, but please feel free to stop me during it and ask any questions or clarifying information. The first thing I wanted to share with you are some curriculum updates. We are currently in year 2 of the illustrative math program. This was a new program that focused on student-led problem solving and fostering productive struggle. It is Department of Education endorsed. We did some research and started to pilot this program in last school year. I will say that it was a huge shift for students and for teachers. There is a structure to how it is done, and the students productively struggle. You are talking to them and giving them some conversation pieces. They have some time to work on their own. Then they have some time to partner, share, and discuss. After that, they do some activities together. The teacher is a facilitator more than directly instructing the students. They do some cool downs at the end so the teacher can kind of gauge what information they understand, and there is some clarification of vocabulary and those types of things. I think that it was difficult to get off the ground because I think that our teachers are very used to standing in front of a group and talking to the students and telling them this is exactly how you multiply or how you divide. But letting the students see it has really been eye-opening and extremely productive. The teachers are now in year 2, so I think going through the program for 1 full year, talking about the things that worked well, the units that were very difficult, figuring out how to modify certain things that we used have been really important. I think that they were not a huge fan of me when I asked them to use the program with fidelity for a year. I know there are a lot of great things out there, and I know there are a lot of programs that made a lot of sense, but I really wanted them to get a very firm grasp on this program. And then after some time, we could figure out where the gaps were. And so we are in year 2 right now. We have also begun Zern, which is an online math program for students, and it is pictures, visuals, and real-life examples. So the students are doing Zern tutoring or Zern work for about 90 minutes a week is the goal at the end of a full week, and we're not there yet because we just started it this year. This is also a DESE endorsed program, and they are funding part of it this year so that we can implement it and begin to pilot it. This program follows very closely with illustrative math, and you can really hear a lot of parent support. I see people in the marketplace and other places talking about how they really like it. One of the things they have is called the Tower of Power. So if a student gets something wrong, it brings them to another area and it very explicitly talks to them with visuals and shows them how to do it and work through the problem. And then they are reverted back to try those again. So we're trying to firm up some of the gaps that we had in the past, but the focus on this Zern and on illustrative math is the core concepts in grade 3, 4, and 5 that they need. We are not moving the children to fill in gaps as much as teaching them the new curriculum, and when we see a gap, that's how we're addressing it, and one of the ways is Zern. We're also using this specific Zern tutoring with the help of our math tutor, Dawn Lettieri, who has been instrumental in getting these off the ground. She has worked with all of our interventionists, and I think I explained the last time we were here during MCAS, we have students who are in the yellow on some of our testing. And those students that are not receiving special education services or ML services or any sort of reading pullout, those students that are on the cusp are the students that we're really focused on that are in the classroom. So interventionists will go into the classroom for 4th and 5th grade in math, and they will work with those students. 2 days they will do specific Zern tutoring, small group with them. The other 2 days the tutor is there to monitor what they're doing on Zern, answer any questions, and make sure they're focused. And I think this small group ability that we have created has made sure that the students are processing productively through these lessons and getting the support that they need. I think it's really important for our students to have time to practice what we're teaching and have time to really think about it and examine it, and this is a program that is allowing us to do that. So those are 2 newer programs that have been very successful this year for our math program, and math has been a very large focus of all of our professional development last year. It is the focus of our professional development this year as well, to make sure that we are using all of the components of illustrative math that are available and make sure that our teachers have the support that they need to make it successful. Lexia is, I think, a K-8 program altogether, but there's another component called Power Up. We are using our Power Up with 8th grade, and the middle school is also using it. It is a little bit more advanced. It has a stronger emphasis on comprehension, and there's a grammar piece that our students were really missing. So it is a little bit older, I would say, than Lexia, and it's a little bit more geared towards older students, so they like it a little bit better than just the Lexia. And we are also building student fluency through that. So when our students arrive in the morning, the first 15 minutes of every day in every classroom is making sure that they're on their Lexia or their Power Up, and they're getting the time to do it. And Lexia and Power Up set up specific time frames with units that need to be accomplished each week to try to get them to grade level. And our teachers are very much looking at that data often, rewarding the students who are getting their units. And I think that was a big difference for us in the last few years, is the students would have 60 minutes on Lexia. Well, they could have 60 minutes on Lexia and turn it on and walk away, or have 60 minutes on Lexia and not do anything and not productively engage with it. So now it's the number of units they are completing. It's the actual assignments with specific questions that are happening, and that same is happening for Power Up. So I think that shift has been very interesting, and I think sharing that information with parents has been helpful. It's not just leave it on and come back later and say I got my time in, but how much actual concrete work is being done. Another piece that is starting right now is that we are in the very beginning stages of selecting a new core reading program. I think I would say that it's probably going to be K-5. I don't believe it will be K-8, but that could be something that we're looking into. Before COVID, we started this process, and we piloted and looked at multiple programs. We showed it to our staff in both the Winthrop banks and the Cummings. We looked at the different components of it. We looked at what things we really thought were impressive and things that we were concerned about. We had teachers look through the books and look through some of the things, and then COVID hit. So now we're kind of coming back to this and thinking about a program. At our school, our ELA is focused strictly and specifically on the scope and sequence, and we have it written out so that in each grade level, the children will master all of the standards in April before MCAS begins. So we have a few weeks before MCAS to go back and review some of the things that we know are difficult. And we have really done a great job, started before I was there. Mary McGonigal and Megan Lawler are two reading specialists who have been really instrumental in ensuring that the students in each grade level are getting what they need based on the standard. At the end of every month, we have a review of what that standard is. We spend time making sure that each classroom teacher's materials and lesson plans are matched to making sure that standard is being addressed throughout the month. We created a writing scope and sequence last summer, not the summer we just had. Because of COVID and looking at all that has had to be addressed, I think that for a while we were trying to put the writing as part of our curriculum and writing across the curriculum in science, in social studies, talking to them during math time. But we were noticing that students were having some deficits in certain areas, and COVID definitely changed that a little bit more. So we put in third grade a handwriting component that hasn't been there in a few years. They're also all using Letterland to try to firm up some of that phonics and phonemic awareness. In 4th and 5th grade, we have created a writing scope and sequence that talks about the narrative, informational, and persuasive writing. And first, it is just about writing for ourselves in October, November, and December. And then in January, we're revisiting these 3 forms of writing, but also writing to text, because that's what we're looking for when we're looking for writing at MCAST. And so a lot of focus last school year went into finalizing and creating that writing scope and sequence. And this year, we're fine-tuning it and figuring out which things worked really well and which things we need to spend some more time on.
And Andrea, just to jump in about model lesson plans.
Yes.
So, because I remember doing, looking at some of this work. It's important we have a lot of new teachers.
Yes.
So a lot of our experienced teachers and our newer teachers who are involved in creating the curriculum scope and sequence are able to design and share model lessons. And I think that's huge. Sometimes we forget that that's something that's needed for our newer teachers. They benefit from it greatly. They know where the lessons are coming from and who to reach out to for support. So oftentimes if you have a newer teacher, you may be worried. Oh, they might not be as experienced as, a long-standing teacher. But I think the collaboration between the teachers and the sharing of that information has been a huge, huge benefit. Not just at the Cummings school, but that's the protocol that we've been using district-wide whenever we're creating something
absolutely.
new, and especially scope and sequence.
And I think that having Google Classrooms and having all of those lessons and the teachers spending so much time producing all of that during COVID gave us an opportunity to say, okay, now we have these slides, or now we have this information in writing. How can we supplement that? How can we build upon that? How can we make it more engaging for students? Where before COVID, I don't know if we ever would have moved so quickly to something like Google Classroom and something like slides every day and those types of things. So I think that really was a benefit. If we can find a silver lining in all of it, I think that was really helpful. In social studies, we received a primary source grant, and so what happened was we looked through a list of the primary source activities and supplemental materials that they offered, and at each grade level at the beginning of the school year, I asked each grade level to pick one unit from this and have it supplement what they're already doing. And there are resources, there are videos, there are texts, and so based on the scope and sequence that they already had in place, they're putting this primary source information in. There is also a field trip component that was written into the grant from Mrs. Gallivan, and we're working on trying to supplement some of the learning that's happening with a field trip that could really give them some real life experiences. haven't done that in many years, so we're looking to firm up some of those things. So I think that's pretty exciting. And we received a grant last year because we couldn't have field trips. I focused the time on either Zoom or in-person experiences for the children because I didn't want them to totally lose all of it. And we had last year a geometry person that came in, and we had in 5th grade, they did all sorts of science experiments, and in 4th grade, they met with women in chemistry and psychology and physics, and so those things were really cool. We're looking to get some of those back, but they are very expensive, so we're looking into some grants to see if some of those can be brought back in again. We also, Mrs. Howard reached out to the mothers out front, and I have Mary Alice Sharkey coming in, and she's doing a composting program with grade 3 that we're really both looking forward to. She had a little medical setback, but she's okay, and we're planning it for the beginning of January, and we'll get right back on track for our 3rd graders with composting and those types of things. So I think in all of our curriculum areas, we are moving forward, and we are trying new and innovative things.
Just on the math, I had attended a conference this weekend, and one of the focus areas was in math. And there was a tremendous speaker, and I can share out the contact information so you can go on and check out his YouTube or his Twitter. He has all kinds of social media, but he also has websites. His name is Dr. Raj Shah. And the first question he asked us was to raise your hand if you're not good at math. And so, of course, 95% of the room, I think I might have just stood on the table and raised my hand. And that was sort of how he stepped off his conversation. And his goal and lot in life is to make math irresistible. And he did a couple of little things with a whole group of adult educators. And he put up a fraction. He said, I'm going to give you 3 minutes, and I need you to solve this problem. And he put up some random addition of fractions, and I froze and then pretended my phone rang and was on it. And a lot of people did. And he said, okay, time is up. Put that aside. Now I'm going to do one other thing with you. And he put up this box of 12 squares that had a dot in each square. And he said, I'd like you now to find someone at your table, one of those nice, uncomfortable, we're going to share information. Share information, grab 2 or 3 people at your table, work in a group, and I want you to see how many squares you can make by connecting the dots. And you have to work with people, and you have to talk about it. And eventually I'll come back and finish my presentation. So then about 5 minutes later, he came back and he was walking around the room, walking up to people saying, that's very interesting, can you show me how you did that? Just asking questions. And the whole time he's doing it, I'm thinking of illustrative math in school, and I'm going, wow, this is like an illustrative math session. Like the teacher is walking around the room, complimenting students in a positive way, but pointing out what they're doing, and not just saying, great job, but really getting down and touching the paper and pointing something out. And then he came back and said, so which activity did you like better? And the entire room liked the square activity better. And his whole discussion is about being the facilitator in a room. And then he pointed out something very interesting. You know, when kids get together and solve a math problem together in a group, it's not cheating. And it was kind of silence in the room. And he asked how many people also were told that they're not a math person by the time they were in like the 5th grade. And a lot of people were. He talked about the fact that there is no genetic finding, that your genes are set up for you to be a good math person, and put up a whole like genetic study about how that's not true. And he taught us about getting back to the business of teaching through group activities and letting kids learn and explore, make mistakes, and they don't always have to have the right answer. It's about having the ability, the confidence, the happiness, the fun of exploring something and figuring out something, and also having the cheerleaders in the room to get them to do that, and the power in that. And then he had 4 or 5 more breakout. He was one of the main speakers. Then he had 4 or 5 more breakout sessions throughout the weekend, and they were packed with people. And he also has his own math curriculum that he sells, but doesn't talk to you about that during the conference. He talked to you more about finding a program for your school that allowed this mindset versus the typical stand-up teach fractions, and then move on, teach math facts and move on. So it was very interesting, but when I sat in it, I'm like, is he gonna talk about illustrative math? So
But
it was
even
very
observing
interesting.
in classrooms, you listen to them have that, like they were doing geometrical shapes and they were talking about it in third grade classroom, and I'm thinking, how are they coming up with these? And they had the language and they were confident about it, and it wasn't just about teaching the vocabulary, the children were using the vocabulary in appropriate ways, and I'm thinking, is that
It's like
right?
a judgment-free,
is this,
like a
you know?
judgment-free
Yep.
zone. And another interesting point for our K-2 teachers at the Gorman Fort Bank School, they're gonna be going over and
Yes.
observing lessons in the third grade over at the Arthur T. Cummings School of illustrative math, to start to get that buy-in, because we all know that we have some work to do there. But interestingly, at another point in time, in another week or so, they're going to another public school
Yes.
who has been utilizing illustrative math K-2 for 2.5, almost 3 years now, so that they can see the beginning pieces of it, what it looks like when you're first starting to implement it, and then, wow, how does that look when it's up and running and the kids are getting it? So our teachers are gonna be able to go and observe teachers and see that work in progress as we begin to pick and look through our math curriculum K-2.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions?
You have some more about that?
Just a couple.
She used it.
Andrea, no, did you?
No, it's okay, I have building and grounds.
Oh.
And parent communication and some assessments, but we don't have to do, it doesn't matter.
No, please.
You sure?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share a couple quick things. We had the WinArc, which I'm so grateful to have such a good working relationship with. They put a playground communication board similar to the one at the Gorman Fort Bank School. It is up in our playground, and our SEL teacher, Miss Sophia Grayson, shared it in all of her classrooms so all of the students know what it was and what the expectations were. And you do see kids going up to it, and it's simply a board that they can tap on and communicate with other children. Very excited about this. We had our rugs replaced, and I really am, in 2 of our entranceways, and I think that, you know, our school, the elementary schools are 20 years old at this point, so, you know, one of them was a little bit of a bubble, and then one was peeling a little bit, and just to refresh that and have that taken out, it really makes a big difference, and it makes it like doing something in your house, like a fresh coat of paint. We're working on door repairs and making sure that the security is up to date as far as all of that goes, and very proud to say that we finally have 2 basketball hoops. One was installed in the front circle, and one was installed in the back playground area. After quite a bit of time and working through it, we finally got together, and the children love it. The back one is, the stand itself was up, and we just put a backboard on. And the front one we actually installed, and it's 9 feet on that one. The other one is the actual 10 feet, so we have a little competition for who can shoot into which one, and it's been great. So I just wanted to give you a quick outline for our STAR reading and math. I know we talked a little bit about MCAS testing, and that's that one specific time that I came and spoke to you, but we do this throughout the year, and we're spending a lot of time looking at what's happening. That's 3 times a year. Our Acadians testing is 4 times a year. We are progress monitoring consistently between them, and we're also using the Satchel Pulse 4 times a year to just check in with our students and figure out what those SEL needs are for all of our students. There are 2 conference times that are set up, and there are 3 report cards, so parents have multiple opportunities to check in with their teachers and have their students check in over time. To see how things are going, to get feedback, and to ask questions. And I think that's really important for the face-to-face for the parent conference, but also the written piece for the parent conference. And I did just want to share, we won't have to go through it all, you can kind of just take a look at it, but this was our first fall data and our second fall data, so you can see the number on the left is at or above, and then the number below is partially meeting or below meeting, and you can see that we have our reading scores and our math scores, and in almost all areas, our information, we're making progress, they are going up, and we are pretty proud of those scores. We dig down very specifically, we look at specific classrooms, we look at specific students, we figure out what supports are already in place for those students, what additional supports we need to add, but we are overall pretty proud of the work that has happened going into the very beginning of December of this year. that is our data, so. Any questions?
I just asked just one question. and,
One question.
Unusual for me. So, I know that you're, aside from the MCAS scores,
Yes,
on something like illustrative math,
yes.
how do you measure the kids' success, like, weekly or however you do it?
I think we
Is it
do it
part
in
of the
multiple ways.
curriculum?
I think we do it with anecdotal notes and classroom observations. I think we do it with conversations
Yeah.
with teachers. So let's take those pieces out. Every single day, the children do a cool down. So at the end of the activity, and it's usually 4 parts, the cool down is at the end. It's some sort of small, quick, kind of like an exit ticket, written, goes to the teacher. Sometimes the teacher pulls a child up or 2 children up and said, okay, this didn't go well, I don't think you understood this content.
Right.
Sometimes it's the next day, the teacher will call a group of 2 or 3 kids together to review what was happening.
Okay.
We also do unit tests and we do our STAR assessment. So the STAR math data, as you can see here, will be done 4 times, and we had let's look at grade 3, for example, 43% of our students in the beginning were at or above, and now 51% are. So you can look at some of that data grade-wise, but then we can break it down to classroom-wise and see what's working and what's not. And I think our small group RTI interventionists that are going into classrooms, we have an interventionist going to every classroom every day for 20 minutes. Sometimes they're working with small groups of students in the classroom or in a small group. So we have multiple opportunities for those children to really have multiple touch points with an adult to check in with them.
Great, thanks.
Yes.
A couple of things. On the buildings and grounds, it's good to see that we're trying to keep up with our buildings.
Yes.
And I know the doors are an issue, so hopefully those.
We got them. We had our one door is fully replaced,
Mhm.
the whole piece because of the wind and
Yep.
where that door is located. And we've done a lot with the push bar, is that what it's called? Yes.
Now, what about on heating, just temperature control within the
Yes.
building?
It's,
That's been an issue for a long time, and are we going to
that
address
is being
that?
addressed.
I can handle that if
Yes.
you're okay with that. So right now, myself, RJ, and Mikhail, over the past month, we brought in Viking Control, and they're actually doing an assessment of each and every classroom, which ran us quite a few pennies, but we had some grant money that Lori was able to put away for us. And hopefully, once we get that assessment back, we'll know exactly what to tackle and what to repair in both our heating and our cooling costs to really make this building, which is, I believe, it's a little bit older, more energy efficient at the end of the day. So right now, we do have an assessment. We should have it back by mid-January by Viking Control, and that should really help us kind of spearhead our energy billing, hopefully. That's what Mikhail and myself believe.
Well, the building's obviously important, but just the overall comfort and for the staff and
Yeah.
So if I was coming right now,
kids.
I know that right
Because
now, the AC was running really bad, so we had that replaced in the summertime already. We had one of the units
One of
replaced.
the units was replaced for the 21st century in that whole section.
Yes, that whole section.
RJ Lopresti
Yep.
could talk to you forever about, he knows everything about the vents and the controls and the sections and the wiring, and there's something that turns on and off, and he could explain all of it. He also can actually physically try to do things on the computer and up in rooms to do it. He has really a very, very strong knowledge of this. It's extremely impressive.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that's good to know. And on the illustrative math,
Yes.
which is awesome. And so you talked a little bit about primary sources and how the grant, you had a grant for. Does illustrative math, where we started it last year, do we have a grant for that?
We have a grant for parts of it this year,
Yeah.
because it was part of that Department of Education, we applied for it, and so a portion of that was paid, and Zern was paid this year through a
Through the
grant, because they're both on the approved list. And we are working very closely with the representatives from Zern and Illustrative Math. We actually have a professional development this Wednesday that they'll come in again. They have been superb with helping us with that. I don't know how long that grant lasts and what the next steps are, but
It just seems to be a very good program, and it seems to be great for the 4th and 5th graders who have had it in 3rd and 4th grade, and it would be
Yes.
great.
And the sixth
hopefully
graders
we
now.
can get,
Sixth
yes,
graders
no,
and-
Sixth graders
and
have it
hopefully
now.
next year,
and hopefully
seventh and eighth.
right, and hopefully we could get first and second, and
Right.
then it would be just that much more,
Yes.
you know.
Um,
So that's, I think, I've heard really good things about it, and it just seems to be a really good program, and it'd be great to have consistency throughout the system.
And I think students and families will say that coming into year 2, it was really nice, because it was tough to get off the ground. It was tough for the teachers, it was tough for the students, but now that they're entering the following year, like our 3rd to 4th, our 4th to 5th, I don't know how Mr. Curley would speak about 5th to 6th, but they have a background, they know the expectations. This isn't about the teacher standing in front of them, so I think that has been hard to let go, but impressive to see the results.
It also builds social skills, you know, and that's one of the things that you do see, but you separate from the math, is kids learning to work together, kids learning what happens when you have a disagreement,
Yes.
how to praise each other, how to support each other on a team, all life skills stuff, which is again what Dr. Shah had been talking about, that learning to enjoy math and not be afraid of it is a big deal, that really goes across all aspects of learning and life in general. So it's pretty exciting.
Yes.
Thanks, Andrew, you're doing a great job.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Suzanne?
Yes.
Just at one of your earlier slides, you said you were looking at some new ELA programs, I believe.
So we're beginning the process. So we don't have a core reading program in K through 5. I believe the last one was Storytown, and that's the teacher in me speaking from years ago.
Yeah, sure.
So that was the last structured and organized program that was in place. And so I think that, you know, the year before COVID and now into this, we're looking at a structured program. I mean, I think there's pieces like the phonics piece, I think the spelling piece. Are we gonna have a writing piece that's included in it? And also strong literature for children. So pulling all of those pieces together into one program that is vetted is really important to us, because that's one of the most important things we looked at as far as the math goes.
Are there certain programs you're thinking about, or I guess I'm just wondering, like, kind of how far along you are in that beginning?
We were before COVID, and now we're not. So we did pick 2 programs, and I don't wanna quote them exactly, but I think I know what they are, and I don't wanna say the wrong ones. But I can tell you about, like, I can send you an email certainly with what we looked at before, some of the pros and cons of what they were, and then what we're looking at now. And I think that programs, even in these last 2 years, have probably changed a bit. So we're looking at the programs that have already been vetted, the programs that already have data behind them, and we wanna know, we know we're never gonna find a program that's absolutely perfect. But we wanna find the one that has the most, that fits to what we need. And I think that, you know, making sure those Mass State standards are in there and making sure that it's rigorous for our students is really important to us.
And I think the value of being part of the 5-district partnership, in which we're collaborating with 4 of the districts, some of who have done some of this work.
Yes.
You know, we're not starting at ground zero. So coming in with that information and certainly support of the Department of Education in terms of, you know, what they have vetted out or what they have put their tag on to say that this
Yes.
is a data-driven, you know, checked and utilized in other districts. At least we have some of that background coming in.
And that's what we did. We had representatives from each one of them come out and speak to us about it, and they gave us samples, and we kind of 3rd and 4th and 5th, look at this, tell us what you like, you know, that type of stuff. So we want to do that again, but I think there's newer and more current information out there now.
Sure, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much
Yeah,
for
nice job.
taking the time and
Thank
giving us
you.
this great update.
The last time I was here, we were talking about our EL population or our ML population. My multilingual population is what
Yes.
my multilingual teacher is trying to change the wording. And so right now we have 22 students in grade 3, 19 in grade 4, and 19 in grade 5 with a total of 60 right now. And we had about 34 last year.
Real quick question on that. How has the population changed at the school this year? I know you said it. I think you addressed that last time. But overall, how many more students or
So-
fewer students do you have?
In all, so, we definitely have more students. They just, every week we're having new students. I think we're up to like 423 or 424. and we were, oh, I shut my computer off. Sorry, so now you're gonna shut that off. Look at how pretty.
There you go.
So our third grade, our children entering third grade, that was a very big population that came from the Gorman-Four Banks. That's our biggest population. So we're at like 125 or so in grade 5. We're at about 142 in grade 4, and we're at 163, I think, now. Because our third, well, we have 8 classrooms in third grade, 7 classrooms in grade 4, and 6 classrooms in grade 5, because our grade 5 right now is a smaller group.
Right.
But this third grade, it just keeps growing.
Wow.
It's very big.
Is that where you're seeing the bulk of the kids coming in?
No, they're actually very nicely, evenly distributed.
Okay.
It's been very nice. But, I mean, 22 students in grade 22, 19, and 19 are definitely our biggest EL population that we've ever had. And we absolutely have more students who do not speak any English at all than we have ever had.
Okay.
I feel like 15% of your population is here.
And with the help of you and some other grant money, we have our iPads up and working again, which has been huge. And so now our students who are coming in with different languages actually have an iPad to have with them all day for Google Translate. Because we use it on our phones, or the teacher will use it and talk to the student, but now they can bring it to lunch with them.
Yeah,
So it's been huge,
that's good.
huge.
Sorry, just one more quick question.
Yes.
Average class size for this grade?
22, 23, yes.
It's really big.
Right now in first grade, it's on the first floor, I do it all the time. Third grade, we have one classroom that has 22, that's the biggest one, but there's 8 of them,
Right. Yeah.
yes. And then there are about 22 in 4th grade, and there are 22 in 3rd and 5th grade.
So just a quick thing, so looking, I'm sure Lisa's already starting looking at budgets for next year and looking at population in 2nd grade, so you're gonna need a couple of teachers next year, right? I mean, you're
I'm
gonna
gonna
go,
need
what are your sections
an
look?
addition on
We
my
make some
building.
movement, yeah. We're looking at
Yeah.
pods.
Yeah.
Trailers?
Yeah,
Did you-
so that's what,
You don't
that's,
have a ton of
that's-
space over
yeah,
there for
exactly.
8, 8, and 8 or anything, you
No.
know,
No.
you can't do that.
No,
Nope.
no, exactly. So,
We have our eyes on it, and each year, we have to take a look at that and see where the bubble of kids are. And whether we move a 3rd grade teacher to become a 5th grade teacher,
Exactly.
and that's what
Yeah.
we did last year, we had to move some
we
folks
moved a
around.
5th grade teacher down to 3rd grade.
Mhm.
And so Mr. Curley is getting a smaller class next year. And my going up to 5th grade isn't huge, but those 3rd graders going to 4th, and those, I don't even know what the 2nd grade numbers are. Of kids coming
I
over.
don't know off the
I
top of
think it's
my
a
head,
pretty
but
good, I think
pretty
it's
good
in the
size.
size.
140-ish, yeah.
Yeah, so,
I thought it was.
but I'm up for pods.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of November 21st, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lettieri, second by Ms. Barry. May I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci? Ms. Petrie? Yes. Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Barry?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes. May I have a motion to approve warrant SVW 23-9 in the amount of $160,150.06?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Barry, second by
Second.
Ms. Swope. May I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Petrie? Yes. Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Barry?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes. May I have a motion to approve payroll warrant SPW 23-10 in the amount of $966,687.18?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Ms. Petrie, second by Ms. Barry. May I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Abstain.
Mr. Matucci?
Abstain.
Ms. Petrie? Yes. Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Barry?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes. May I have a motion to approve payroll warrant SPW 23-11 in the amount of $840,194.81?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Swope, second by Ms. Petrie. May I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Abstain.
Mr. Matucci?
Abstain.
Ms. Petrie? Yes. Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Barry?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes. No budgets and transfers, no buildings and grounds. No subcommittee reports, superintendent's report.
Yes, thank you. Just a reminder for all schools that Wednesday is an early release day, so people can be reminded to plan accordingly. We are going to be distributing iHealth COVID-19 antigen rapid test to students before the holiday break. There's information on each website, each school's website, and the notices that go home to the parents at the beginning of every week. Some go on Sunday, some go on Monday. There's a portal to be able to sign up for those if families would like to have those. Their test kits are free. We encourage you to utilize them. There is an opt-in form in the weekly parent email, but if you can't find that, you can contact Tara Bowie, who is our nurse leader, at 617-846-5507, extension 7223. If you get confused about it, just call the main office and ask to be transferred to the nurse, and they can help you out with that. Alice training drill, so just a bit of information, all of our, every teacher and administrator and ESP, and even our cafeteria workers and custodians have all been Alice certified by taking the online Alice certification test, which teaches us how to react to any type of incident in our school that is intrusive. So they have all taken those, and now with the help of Chief Delahanty, who has certified Alice trainers on his staff, they'll be coming out to the school in December and early January to do some on-site work with our staff. So through the Alice program, the idea behind it is that there are people who are certified, such as the teachers in the classroom and many others, and if there was to be any type of an intrusion or something going on in the building in which we needed to lock our building down, that the students are expected to react to the teacher direction. And so they'll be coming in and doing some role-playing activities with our teachers. They'll start out by meeting with them and reviewing the Alice certification training that they had, just giving them some pointers, some key things to remember. They'll also do a Q&A with the staff, and then they will set up some scenarios in the school, unbeknown to the teachers when there are no students in the school. And the teachers will go through those scenarios based on what the trainer believes they would like to implement in the moment. And then the chief and his team will get back to us, give us an assessment of what they saw, which will give us an idea of any additional support or training we need to give to our staff. We'll give the feedback to the staff for them. They've had this training, the certification training now for, I think, 4 years. But our last on-site practice, they call them, I don't like to call them drills because it's just sort of day-to-day practice that we do. We have not done that for 2 years. So teachers are excited to do it because you could take the training and then they say, oh God, what's going to happen if I am in that situation? Am I going to know what to do? So it's always good to practice. So those are happening over the next several weeks. We want our parents to continue, principals have asked that the parents continue to review their weekly emails. They put a lot of helpful information in there and updates. If you are a parent who is not getting emails from us or you're not getting a weekly email, please contact the school directly and immediately because you may have changed your email address and forgot to tell us. It's super important as the weather changes, and as we all know, I call the snow days, so therefore, if you don't have an address on file with us, an email address, phone contact that's current, you're not gonna get those information. Every school sends something every week. So if you're not getting them, please reach out. Important things like safety reminders, conference dates, PTO happenings. So please be sure to check that. In terms of school traffic, just remind people, please be mindful of the rules of each individual school as you're dropping your children off. I know everybody wants to get there on time and be the first in line, but we are continuing to have some difficulties, not just at the Gorman Fort Banks, but at all of our schools. Folks are moving quickly on the road. Not everybody has children in school, so not everyone is aware of that. Parents dropping students off on the street level, please have your children get out on the sidewalk side, and know it might take an extra minute, but please do that so that our kids can remain safe. The ongoing traffic challenges at the Gorman Fort Banks are continuous, probably since the day the school was built. But it's inhibiting other people from accessing the loop. Folks are not necessarily following the rules. They're doing some live parking. They're parking in spaces that say no parking, which means you can't park here. They're still doing that. So blocking traffic in both directions. It's a huge safety issue, especially if we need an emergency vehicle down in that area. No matter how briefly you park your car in the wrong spot, especially the ones that say NO, no parking, it compromises the safety of all of our kids and emergency access to our schools. So please, just individually, be a good model for others. I know it can be aggravating if somebody swoops around you and cuts the line. We will continuously monitor those people and work collaboratively with the police for people who are sort of ongoing traffic offenders. And we don't have a problem reaching out to the police department for that. We have people parking in the crosswalks at the Gorman Fort Bank School. I'm not sure why. They are probably one of the most brightly colored things on the ground that you definitely can see. And that blocking of the entrance of the parking lot to the DPW continues to be an issue. We thank you in advance for your cooperation. Please understand our tolerance level is becoming very low. And we are working closely with the police department to continue to take care of our student safety and the safety of other people. Quick update on athletics. Winter season is here, which means we have a whole nother group of athletes, over 200 athletes participating in winter sports. So we have both boys and girls basketball. We have indoor track, both boys and girls. We have, of course, hockey for boys and girls, gymnastics, and for those of you who don't know, we continue to have a co-op of a swim team, which is a co-ed swim team, and it is an awesome program. I have a child who participated in that. We collaborate with Lynn English, and the relationships that get built with another community of students is just a pretty good thing to watch. So we're excited about that, and I believe that is it until we get to public relations. Homeschool applications is next.
Homeschool applications.
So we have one ninth grade homeschool application, which Ms. Galvin has gone through, and all the appropriate documentation is there. So we're looking for a vote on that. And just as a point of reference, we have 2 students who were homeschooled who have decided to return to our elementary schools as in-person learning. You don't need to approve that because that's just a registration issue, but we do need approval for the one ninth grade student who has all the appropriate documentation in.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve? Motion by Ms. Swope,
Second.
second by Ms. Petrie. Can I have a roll call on that, please?
Yes, Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Petrie?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Barry?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes. Personnel issues?
We don't have any appointments, resignation, or retirements. We do have a posting for partnership committee members, which is a partnership we have with For Kids Only, which is separate and distinct from after-school programming in and of itself. And we are looking for folks to sit 4 positions that has been posted, and they would serve on the partnership committee to provide suggestions on ways to align curriculum and integrate the goals of the For Kids Only after-school programming as well. It's a $500 stipend, and it requires 10 hours of meeting time. So that is one posting. And then the second posting is for literacy and SEL specialist, and that is also part of the partnership program, the after-school out-of-time grant partnership program that we collaborate with For Kids Only. And that particular position provides 2 hours of hand-on literacy and SEL classes in the after-school program along with the FKO staff. It's Mondays and Wednesdays, and it's for 2 semesters. And so those are 2 positions that are open, and we are accepting applications for both of those. And those are paid for through the grant that we had collaboratively engaged in with For Kids Only.
Okay, excellent. Under new business, we have the vote for the memorandum of agreement with the Winthrop School and the local SEU school custodian employees. I believe that has been ratified, and we are able to address that tonight.
Yes, so you have it in your packet, so I won't go through every aspect of it, but I think it's important to know that we have settled with the custodial unit from 2022 through 2025. Some of the changes have been an additional holiday, which is a federal holiday, Juneteenth is added to their contract. We've adjusted some timeframes in terms of the hours of custodial overtime. We have increased the clothing allowance minimally from $250 to $300, that they are reimbursed for appropriate clothing. And the wage increase, so in year one, there was an hourly rate adjustment of $2 per hour for senior custodians and junior custodians by $1 per hour. And then in year two and in year three, both of those years, both groups, senior custodians and junior custodians, would receive a 2% increase. And there was an increase in longevity of $200. And that's sort of the bulk of it for
Okay,
your vote and consideration.
excellent. Can I have a motion to approve that contract?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Martucci, second by Ms. Petrie. Any discussion? Hearing none, can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Stay.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Petrie?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Barry?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes. And I would just like to acknowledge the subcommittee and your hard work on that effort. I appreciate all of the time that went into negotiating that contract and coming to an agreement that's fair for everybody.
Yeah.
We have no unfinished business. Public relations.
Want me to do the reading?
Sure.
So public relations, for those of you who don't know, our football team took home the Thanksgiving Day trophy, just in case anyone didn't notice, with a score of 25-6. We were very proud of all of our athletes and coaches. I'd like to congratulate the football NEC all-conference students of the football team, Walvis Acosta, Nick Capuccio, George Gloris, Ryan Harris, Alessio Marcocchio, and Robert Noonan. And congrats to our NEC All-Stars for football, Donovan Cassidy and Dan Guarque. The annual country fair is reported to be a huge success, and thanks to all who donated and attended. Winthrop High School December Athletes of the Month, Libby Carney for cross-country, Lila Cassidy for cheerleading, and Welvis Acosta for football. Amy's Breakfast with Santa, so that was Sunday. I had the opportunity to attend that. Thank you to all who contributed to that. There were hundreds of baskets being raffled off. Santa was there, and I did take a picture with Santa. Lots of happy little kids running around. It was just such an Amy Gallagher moment when you were there, because there was nothing but fun. Nothing but fun aside from raising of a lot of money to support families in need during the holiday, which was Amy's vibe in everything she did. So that was a ton of fun. The whole Gallagher family was there, and we appreciate them continuing to carry on Amy's legacy. 32 students have received the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship. The students are going to be invited to our January 9th meeting for recognition and citations. They're all, I provided you with the list of names, but we will be having them all come in to receive their Abigail Adams Scholarship. Oftentimes, some of them are tied up in athletics when we're having our committee meetings, but hopefully we can get as many of the students here, along with Mr. Crombie, as we can. And I think that is it for me, if anyone else has anything to add.
Excellent. Any other public relations?
I just want to mention, because I heard this through a parent that I know, and it's just such a nice thing. Her daughter received a letter from one of the teachers, and it was just such a heartfelt letter. And it had to do with, you know, here is a student who has really stepped forward in class, participates well, helps others, and I just wanted to tell you. Isn't that a nice thing? It's just so thoughtful, particularly on a busy day's schedule. And I know that parent was delighted to get it and felt so good about it. Those are the little things, I think, that make such a difference.
Little things that matter. You know, it truly is. Thank you, Suzanne.
Excellent. And I, out of a discussion that I've had with Tara Bowie, out of our school nurse, I'm issuing a reminder and plea to continue with the hand washing. We were talking about illnesses in school, and that is one of the things that has kind of fallen by, I don't know if it's fallen by the wayside, but just, she said it's just really important to remind our kids and to keep in mind ourselves the hand washing so that we can continue to keep everyone as healthy as possible. Anything else? May I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Ms. Berry, second by Ms. Petrie. May I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Petrie? Yes. Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Barry? Yes. Ms. Powell?
Yes.